All right, it's almost 4th of July and summer here in Phoenix. So I'm sitting in front of a roaring fire. Jim Ventura here, navigational consultant and astrologer. No, there's not a roaring fire. It's like 100 degrees outside and it's evening. So there's not going to be any roaring fires. But you get the effect, right? So I'm adding something new to my YouTube channel. And since I do a column every other month, you can email me and get on my mailing list to get that column emailed to you directly if you want. I thought I'd do a live read of the column and add this to the YouTube channel as a few added videos. So every 2 months there'll be a storytelling element here. And I wanted to read a story I actually wrote back in 2010 and decided to rerun. And this is my snake oil column. So this story is called Stupid People and Rainbows. I'm gonna need my extra eyes for this. All right, purposely timed my drive back from a day of running errands to avoid rush hour traffic. It was 2 p.m. and I was heading home on a rainy day. Traffic on the freeway was mild until the rain started getting heavier. I, along with most of the other drivers, appropriately slowed down to accommodate the road conditions. I was fine with this until I began to see that every 2 exits or so, traffic would almost completely stop. The first time this happened was because of a minor accident that made everyone feel the need to slow down and stare at the incident. Police had already moved the vehicles to the side, but apparently everyone still needed to move painstakingly slowly so as to see what was going on. A few exits later, traffic slowed down to a snail's pace again because a cop had pulled someone over, and this was apparently equally fascinating to most of the other drivers. This went on in one format or another during my entire drive home. I found myself becoming progressively irritated by the whole situation. There was either constant braking or dangerous speeding. Drivers were either overly cautious or not cautious enough. The whole situation was excruciating. I began to wonder, why were people so stupid? A trip that should have taken 10 minutes had stretched out to 30 and I was only halfway home. I couldn't even get around the endless messes along the way because the left lane was occupied by 2 huge semi-trucks. When did it become acceptable for huge trucks to drive in the left lane other than for passing purposes? At the peak of my frustration, it was something completely different. There were 2 larger-than-life rainbows, I noticed, in the sky ahead of me. They looked like special effects from a fantasy movie. They seemed surreal, and I found myself mesmerized by these 2 visions that occupied the entire northwest skies of Phoenix. They were stunning, and I was entranced by a level of beauty rarely seen here. I realized that the delays and stupid people were actually doing me a favor. They gave me an opportunity to take a slow drive home and enjoy a powerfully transformative visual. There was an opportunity right in front of me. Intuitively, my focus on how stupid most of the other drivers were blocked me from seeing what other aspects of the drive were being offered. Seeing the rainbows had shifted my perspective. I had a sense of real peace and a new awareness of how we often allow excessive scrutiny and frustration with others to block us from seeing the overwhelming beauty that exists in the world around us in every moment. I got caught up in focusing on what was wrong and allowed my cynicism to darken my day. I enjoyed the rest of my drive home. I even considered calling some friends to suggest that I go outside and witness the amazing rainbows that currently graced our skies. I was almost home and driving down the side street in front of my condominium complex when I noticed a lunatic behind me in my rearview mirror. She was riding dangerously close to my car, clearly in a rush and annoyed at my decision to do the actual speed limit in pouring rain. Instantly, my irritation returned and I decided to teach this idiot a lesson. I slowed down even more on the single-lane road to show this impatient dummy that it's not going to be pushed around. How dare she mess up my peaceful drive home? Why were people so stupid? After I taunted her for a minute or 2, I realized what I was doing. I could easily have chosen to simply let her pass, but decided it was my job to teach her a lesson. I regained my sanity. I stopped pumping my brakes and purposely slowing down. I resumed my normal speed. A few minutes later, as I turned right into my apartment complex, she honked, flipped me the bird, and sped off in her angry way. little tea break. Later, I thought about how easily I slipped between being peaceful and happy to becoming angry and confrontational again. A few days later, I noticed that my rear left tire was flat. There was a huge screw in the tire. At first, I wondered if the woman from the car had come back and angrily put that screw in my tire. It was possible, but instinctively, I felt this was not the case. Did I feel like she had come back to teach me a lesson? I was just unlucky and ran over a screw in the road. There are practical hazards that exist on our world. Occasionally, shit just happens. We shouldn't take it personally. Still, some part of me drew that screw to my tire that week and knew it had to do with my energy of putting and getting so irritated by my perception of how many stupid people were screwing with me. I spent way more time focusing on the negative instead of the beautiful rainbows. Now, I would be spending about $250 in a pair of new tires. Listen, growing up in New York and getting a driver's license included defensive driving classes. The focus on assuming you need to prepare and watch out for the worst in people was part of avoiding accidents. This was considered wise, and we were rewarded for thinking this way. On the positive side, this has made me an excellent driver. I've avoided many problems on the road, to my knowledge, never actually caused an accident. On the negative side, this everyone is potentially an idiot has found its way into other areas of my life. It's easy to get annoyed with people and situations and become judgmental about all of it. Focusing too heavily on how things should be and how everything should be done the right way takes a lot of energy. Being discerning is a valuable skill, but being overly critical of others is carrying healthy discernment too far. The same can be said for being overly critical with ourselves. My day with the rainbows made me aware that we always have a choice to lighten our perspective and become less cynical. It takes some practice to do this, and old habits can be hard to break, especially when we see them as part of our cultural inheritance, or cultural heritage. The reward is I'm feeling happier more often and taking what other people do a little less personally. Releasing some of my judgments has allowed me to see more rainbows. A positive shift in my viewpoint is allowing me to discover beauty and harmony in all kinds of new places. All right, so I wrote this column actually back in 2010, which was about maybe 6 years into writing the column. So I haven't run it since. And at times with a bunch of other things that are going on, I thought I'd run it again. So just a little food for thought, and try again to be a little more modern. And some people still like to read, other people like to hear stories, so this is Story Hour. And I'll pop one of these out about every 2 months, added to my YouTube channel. Like and subscribe if you like the story, and check out some of my other videos, and you can find out information about my personal services at jimventura.com. Happy start to the summer, and till next time, cheers.